Hey guys, it's Troy, and you know what? When I get good customer service and I'm treated right by a business, I tend to be a repeat customer. Just ask my automobile mechanic, my travel agent, and I'll send people their way. And I do that for those businesses. I also do that for pen and ink and stationery stores as well, considering that is my hobby and that's what this YouTube channel is about, hence the reason you're watching me right now. So, I've been a repeat customer of Birmingham Pens out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Nick, the owner there, has done me right so far. I've sent a lot of business his way through this channel, through Facebook groups, through emails and correspondence, and I've watched more and more business come his way through you. Some of you have told me that you've gone to do business with Nick at Birmingham because you've watched me, and some other pen reviewers are now starting to give him some exposure. And primarily one of the things I've been purchasing from him have been inks, like, you know, right here he bottles inks that he gets from Germany and packages them and renames them as something germane to the Pittsburgh area. And I've got a shelf full of inks, and up here I've got a bunch of bottles of some of Birmingham Pens inks. I've bought a lot of pens from Birmingham. I bought some, let's see, when we finally hit 250 subscribers, when we were just starting to really grow, the giveaway that I bought was from Birmingham. This last Christmas we bought a bunch of pens in gift boxes, and those were some gifts that we gave to people. I bought some TWSBIs, bought my wife a TWSBI, and that sort of thing. So when I knew that Birmingham Pens was going to start changing and evolving a little bit because they're doing less of the storefront thing, and even now as I look at their website, a lot of stuff is sold out because it's kind of changing a little bit their focus. And so let me read to you some of the printout that I got right off from the store website, birminghampens.com. So several months ago, my dad and I started practicing on a lathe to begin what would become the next evolution of Birmingham Pen Company, the addition of in-house custom-turned fountain pens. So his dad's an engineer, Nick's dad, and they did some lathe work, some CAD, they played with acrylics. In his words, we busted, burned, and shattered a whole pile of material when we were able to begin, before we were able to begin to get things right. In the process of manufacturing our first fountain pen, we continually found that the more we learned, the more we discovered there was to learn. Threading calibration alone was an arduous endeavor of trial, error, and analysis. So eventually, after playing with it and learning, and there's a learning curve to everything that you do, and you want to get good at something, you practice. So they've been practicing and finally felt good enough that they could produce something that was worthy of going commercial with it in marketing. So he comes up with a Model A. Okay, just like Henry Ford, he's got a Model A. Makes sense, it's their first. The Model A for Birmingham Pens was something that I looked at and went, not my personal color choice, but it's a cotton candy color, and if you go to their website you can see that they are up for sale. So they did an initial run of 10. So I was one of the 10. I've got number 6 here personally. So I got this pen in a box like this that was shipped to me. One of the things I like about what Birmingham Pens does is Nick takes the time to actually try to personalize things. So I'll show you the pen here in just a second. But I get changed a little bit the style of his receipt and stamps them. I like that. Inspected by Nick, like who's like just him and his dad pretty much. But there's my receipt for the pen. And one of the things that Nick's always included are these paper clips that looks like a pen nib, and he included a note. Usually, stuff I've purchased in the past, it has been just a computer printout with on plain white paper with that's kind of personalized and signed. Well, I've got here in this envelope, on the back of this envelope, you can see that I've got unit number 6 of 10. And one of the things that he often does, I was talking about the personalized notes on their stationery, there's a note, and he signs it. So Nick tries to personalize your experience and try to get you to relate to him and for him to relate to you as a customer, and that is pretty common for the pen industry with trying to make it personal, because you want to write that kind of thing and use a pen, and it shows a personal touch. So along with that, with the deal, came, like I said, a bottle of ink that came with it, and this is good because this is one I did not have, a color that was not yet in my collection. And one of the other things that he included was a notebook like this, which is similar to field notes. So, you know, it's about the same size. So reminiscent of field notes. So he included his own brand of that, so that's a good plus. So the pen comes in a box like this, and it was packaged nicely. You know, paper wadding. You know, one of the sheets of paper took a big stamp of his company logo on it to make that personalized. And you got a nice little wooden presentation box, and in it you've got the cotton candy acrylic Model A. So number 6 out of 10. Right now, I saw up on his website a little while ago that he had another 100 that were up for purchase. I got this pen at about $40 cheaper than the next 100 are being offered, because I got in on the ground floor. So here is the Model A, available in any color like Henry Ford's Model A, although not in black. Available in any color as long as it's cotton candy, because this seems to be his first stock, his first initial offering. And like I said, it's a pretty pen, right? I don't mind it. It is not my personal preference of colors, but I wanted to get in on, because I've been a repeat customer of his, I wanted to get in on the first batch. And I was able to be fortunate enough to get one of these. So let's get into the pen just a little bit. It, like I said, it's a nice acrylic. It is a clipless design, and it is a screw cap. And when you take off that cap, it reveals a nicely turned section, nice and smooth. There's a little bit of a step down here and some threads, and a nice long section. And the section kind of flares out a little bit. You've got your standard style plastic comb feed on it, and you're going to find a nice Knox nib, a number 6 Knox nib. I don't know how well you can see that here, but here's what I will say. Being a repeat customer, Knox nibs and Knox pens in general that have Knox nibs tend to be nice. I have used the very same nib, only with a solid gold rather than the two-tone that you see here. Just the other day, I had a pen that had a horrible nib. Hated it. Paid good money for the pen. Actually, I paid more than I paid for this one. And the nib was terrible. So, from Birmingham Pens previously, I had bought some nibs. So I went ahead and put on a Knox nib on it, and it writes great. So having experience with Knox nibs already in the past and just recently as well, I went ahead and went with it because I knew it was going to have a Knox nib. Now, this particular pen does come with a standard international converter. It's a quality converter, so it's not a cheap Chinese piece of garbage that I tend to get and purchase because they're cheap, and I go through a lot of them because of my pen hobby, but it's a decent quality ink converter. So I did not use the ink that he gave, and the only reason for that is I haven't tried that ink yet, so I don't know the color of it. And I'm one of those guys who I kind of like to match my pen to the ink, or I guess the ink to the pen, and I put into this thing a Monteverde Caribbean blue, which kind of goes a little closer. So you can see it's semi-translucent. You can actually see the ink converter slide in, so you can see through the pen a little bit. Somewhere on here, if I can find it, is the engraving. There it is. You probably can't see it, but there is on here the engraving that that he put on there for my pen number. So you can see where it says BPC, Birmingham Pen Company, number 6. The engraving right on that pen. So I guess that was the last step that he was waiting on to be able to ship these out, is to send that to get engraved. So, been using this one for a little while, and I'm going to give you a writing sample of it, but let me tell you what I like about it. I like the fact that it's lightweight. It is pretty. Like I said, though not my personal preference, I still like it, and I'm still, you know, I'm secure enough of my manhood that I don't mind carrying around a blue and pink pen. But I can tell you my wife kind of likes this one, so I got a feeling what's going to happen to this particular pen, just because there's my lovely bride who seems to kind of like it, so it may end up in her collection rather than in mine. I don't know. Alright, so it's nice and round, it's smooth, and it's smooth all the way around. I do like it's a pretty easy unscrew to open. It fits comfortably in the hand. It is fairly lightweight. When you post it, it posts securely. You know, keep in mind, all this was machined and done from like stock, acrylic stock, and all the machining was done by, you know, one guy and his dad. So they did a good job. It's not coming off. All right, good and secure. It is not too far back weighted either. Yeah, the cap weighs a little bit, and you can feel the difference, but it is not really bad so as to throw off the balance of the pen. So it's comfortable to hold either way. To me, that is not too terribly long to be able to hold. Some people may not like that. Me, personally, I don't mind that posting because I've got fairly big paws, and that works for me, and it's not so back-weighted as to be off balance. But it writes very comfortably and fits comfortably if you choose not to have it capped, or posted rather, excuse me. So, 1, 2, 2 full turns, and it's back and it is capped. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the dimensions of the pen and all that happy stuff, and then we're going to do a comparison so you can see what it's like next to other pens size-wise, and I'll give you a writing sample. But the only downside to me so far, and this is, and I understand this is his first foray into it. And from what I've read, they will be getting into being able to put on hardware like a clip. So for those of you who like clips, then you can get them in the future, but apparently not right now. That's the only real thing that I didn't like about this, is that his initial offering doesn't have a clip. But I understand that because he's just getting started, and I be honest with you, I think he's done a quality job, taken his time, learned the craft, put out a quality piece of equipment, or quality piece of a writing utensil. There's nothing really else to criticize, really. I do wish he had more colors available than just you know, the unicorn type coloring, or the, I guess, cotton candy, if you wanted to call it that. But I understand. He's just getting into it, and I think he's done, Nick, you've done a really good job, in my humble yet most accurate opinion. So, like I said, let's go on and show you some details and comparisons in a writing sample. Okay folks, here we are back with, again, the Model A from Birmingham Pens. I figured I'd give you a nice close-up view since I have the opportunity to do that. And let's show you a nice closer view of the Knox nib that he put on that, a medium Knox, two-tone. Now, I'm going to put this here. Like I said, the only down thing about the pen that I didn't necessarily care for is it doesn't have a clip, so there's no roll stop to it. So, and I understand that. I'm going to cut him some slack because it's the first real fountain pen being produced. So I'm going to give you a few pens to compare it to. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. That's a TWSBI Eco, so you can get a size comparison there. I'm going to put here right above it a Parker Vacuumatic. Let's throw in a Lamy 2000. Trying to get some pens that people may be very familiar with for a size comparison. Let's throw in, well, why not? Let's go with a Lamy Safari right next to the other Lamy. Let's see what else. Let me take these out and let me compare it to, over here, some bigger pens. So there is the Monteverde Giant Sequoia, for those of you familiar with it. And here is the Montblanc 149. So you can get a good idea of how big it is compared to some very well-known larger pens. Alright, again, this has the Knox nib. I'm very familiar with Knox, used it many times, and as recently as, the other day when I got a pen I didn't really like the nib for. So this is a Birmingham Pens. And this was a homemade / in-house made pen. It is their Model A, which makes sense that it is their very first one. It has a medium Knox nib. Knox nibs are not top of the line. I mean, they're not the most expensive nibs out there. It's not a Bach or a Jovo, as some people think that those are, kind of upper end. And Knox is a lot less expensive than those, but still, decent quality. So let's say a Knox nib like this may go for, let's say, $10, and maybe 15 for a Bach or a Jovo. Manufactured for, let's say, Anderson pens or Goulet pens, and you can pick these up somewhere around $10 alone for each of the nibs. But you know what? It's actually a very nice nib. This pen actually is a smooth writing pen. I've been using it for a little bit, so I can tell you that I have not done anything to this nib. It wrote this well, fresh out of the box, which is what I expected, because like I said, I've used Knox before. So let's show you. It's you could probably detect very little feedback. So you can get some line variation out of it. Let's look real quick at reverse. So in this medium nib, you can actually get a super fine reverse writing experience out of it. So let's take a look. Alright, so it's a fairly wet writer, and like I said, this particular ink is a Monteverde Caribbean blue, which I kind of like, by the way. If you're going to get a turquoise, this is something worth considering. This is, You can tell I used basically the last of it. Is about all I'm going to get out of this thing, out of this ink sample. So I've used this ink a bunch, kind of like it, and I like to go to the Caribbean, so a Caribbean blue works for me. So what else is there to tell you? I mean, is it a good value, this particular pen? Well, I can tell you that I got the pen, and let me show you the receipt for it. I got this pen for $59.99. So I got it about $40 cheaper than it's being offered for right now. Right now it's being offered for $99.99. And considering it's hand-turned and the amount of care and effort that went into them, for about $100, would I pay? No, I'd pay $60. I definitely would pay $60 for these. I don't know if I would personally would pay $100 if it was to the point where Nick was really well known in the pen turning community and had a great reputation. I can see demanding that kind of a price. I also understand that there is economy of scale. I also understand too, though, that when you're a small operator and you take the amount of time and effort that goes into turning your own custom pens, that you need to be able to make a profit. Now, quite honestly, I've paid less than $99 for another custom pen that's going to be coming from another pen maker out of Texas. But on the flip side, I also forked out just under $400 for a custom pen being made to my specifications. That's going to be coming to me from a pen maker out of Arkansas. So, I'm willing to pay good money for a good quality when I see something that really catches my eye. I'm definitely down for paying the $60 price tag that came with for this. I mean, MSRP he had pegged, I think, at $139.99, but was asking $99.99 for the next batch of 100. So, if this pen really appeals to you, then maybe the $100 price tag works for you. The $60 price tag definitely worked for me when I saw it. Not to mention wanting to get in on the first 10. So that, number one, I can sit here and tell you I got in on the first 10 and you didn't. Nah, 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 nah. Also knowing that the price was going to go up after the first batch of 10, I went ahead and jumped on it, and out of curiosity wanted to see what Nick had to offer and actually touch it, hold it, play with it, write with it. So, I mean, I'm happy with it. I definitely think at the $60 price point, it's actually a nice pen to have in my collection. So the $100 price point, it's pushing it, in my opinion, but you're still getting a nice pen. You're getting a nice writer. I mean, it's a very smooth pen. You're getting a decent quality nib on it. You're getting something that so far has been reliable. It's been writing the first time every time that I've used it thus far. It's comfortable in the hand. I haven't had any problems with it. So, thus far I'm happy with the purchase. So there you are. This is the Model A, the first ever produced batch of 10 for Birmingham Pens. Nick at Birmingham, you did nice work. You really did. So for your first foray into personal pen manufacturing and distribution, I think you did a decent job in its quality. So if you continue on this path, I look forward to seeing what else you have to offer. I've been a repeat customer thus far, sent a lot of business your way, and hopefully we'll be able to send a lot more business your way as well as your pen making business grows. And just, hey, remember me, Nick. Alright, so that's my review of Birmingham Pens Model A cotton candy version of their initial offering for a fountain pen.